Hey all you great crusaders, this is Warhammer Wiki. Today we're going to be discussing the theory that the Emperor of Mankind always wanted to be God. As you can see from the thumbnail, this is going to dive a little bit deeper into the Emperor of Mankind being Jesus. Now, this may sound a little bit weird to you guys if you guys have read the Warhammer 30k books, everything about the Horus Heresy. You'll remember that the Emperor is extremely against being worshipped to the point where it actually drove Lorgar to start the Horus Heresy. So this is going to be an interesting topic, things that I want you guys to start exploring outside of the box. And other than my other videos, this is a new video series. This is going to be me discussing Warhammer 40k theories, things that I've always thought of to be true, and after reading over 70 Warhammer 40k and 30k novels, things that I really do truly believe to not be a theory, but be fact. And I'm going to dig a little bit more further into it. So sit down, get ready. And this is going to be a little bit of a different setup than what we usually have. It's going to be less scripted. It's going to be less off the cuff, but I have done the research for it. So get ready to figure out why the Emperor of Mankind always wanted to be God. So to start out, let's take a deeper dive into this. I'm going to be going based off of the fact that the Emperor of Mankind has always seemed to be historical figures throughout Warhammer 30k, 40k, pre-Emperor, or not pre-Emperor, but before the Emperor was introduced to mankind. So who are some of the people that the Emperor has said to be? And these are all going to be things that have been discussed about in Warhammer 40k books. It's going to be in older White Dwarf material, so prior to a lot of the novels, and some theories that have been bouncing around. So right off the bat, Alexander the Great. So this is shown up in a couple older White Dwarf materials that has stated the Emperor of Mankind to be Alexander the Great. Now, this really does make sense when you think about it. I mean, he was younger, ambitious, he was a tactical genius, he wanted to unite all of mankind under one banner. But when things started to get out of control, you know, his troops wanted to start more wars because of religion as they conquered different parts of the world, and realizing that humans did not have enough to unify all of the cultures, he just kind of disappeared. He said, yep, I'm done, I am gone. Alexander the Great, towards the end, started being seen as a god, and this is super important because many believed he himself presented him to be God to newly conquered people. Also, his army fully believed that he was a divine hero or a demigod, so the offspring of gods, which is, knowing the Emperor's past, that it was a ton of these shamans that all kind of died. I don't want to say the word on YouTube, but they forcibly died to make the Emperor. So knowing this, it does make sense that he was Alexander the Great, being kind of a demigod himself. But the fact that in history it talks about Alexander the Great being seen as a god, basically telling new people that he was going to be a god, that he was a tactical genius. Keep this in mind because this is going to tie into some crazy stuff. All right, second person in history that the Emperor was portraying, Saint George. You know, in the book Mechanicum, it straight up says that the Emperor of Mankind was Saint George. This is because in ancient history, Saint George was believed to have killed a dragon that had been feeding on maidens from a nearby village in medieval England around 1506 AD. We know that was the Void Dragon. So a shard from the ancient Catan landed on Earth around that time. The Emperor, who the heck knows how, imprisoned the shard of the dragon on Mars, which really caused everything that happened with the Mechanicum. He's been influencing them, all that stuff. Now, how does this really play into the fact that the Emperor always wanted to be a god? Now, just look at the name, Saint George. Saint George. I know a lot of people are going to pass this off as saying, you know, Warhammer Wiki, Christianity was always big back then, and if anyone was really big and strong and did some crazy stuff and performed miracles, they would definitely throw saint on there. That's not the problem. That's not the problem. The problem is that the Emperor did not correct this form of language. You know, as we know with Lorgar, the Emperor was not afraid to throw some power behind things when he hears someone say something along the lines of, you know, he's a god or something that he doesn't like. He's pretty quick to correct things like that. And if the Emperor has always been opposed to being a god, like we would figure that he has, then it would have been corrected here. He wouldn't have just let it happen. The second that he had heard that he was being called a saint, someone being blessed of God or having godlike abilities, he would have squashed it. So we know for a fact, just based on this little excerpt, that the Emperor was a little bit different than he was in Warhammer 30k. He seems to have been a little bit more lax about being called a god, just like it is with Alexander the Great, a demigod with Alexander the Great, or being called a saint or someone blessed by God when it comes to Saint George. Again, keep this all in mind. This is going to wrap up. Up next, here's the big one. This is Jesus. The Emperor was Jesus. Now, I know it's a little bit of an older book, but I'm sure that many of you have read it because it's one of the first books in the Horus Heresy series. The book is called False Gods. So there's a character named Karl Sinderman, basically a non-religious priest or a spokesman for the Imperium, was talking with Garviel Loken, a high-ranking space marine, about mythology and symbolism. This is what they said. Yes, yes, he muttered, flipping back and forth through the well-thumbed pages. Yes, here it is, ah. Yes, a word for serpent in one of the most lost languages of the Old Earth was Naash, which apparently means to guess. It appears that it was then translated to mean a number of different things, depending on which etymological roots you believe in. Translated to mean what? Asked Loken. If first rendition is as either enemy or adversary, but it seems to be more popularly translated to Satan. Satan, said Loken. I've heard that name before. We, spoke of it at the Whisperheads, said Sitterman in a low voice, looking about him as though someone might be listening. It was said that to be a nightmarish force of devilry cast down by the golden hero on Terra. As we now know, the Samus spirit was probably the local equivalent to the inhabitants on 6319. End quote. Later on in the book, Sinderman makes the connection that all of these old stories relate to the Emperor of Mankind, meaning that the golden hero on Terra, hint hint, the Emperor always wears gold armor, always shows up in a blinding light of golden rays, is the Emperor of Mankind himself. And the person that was cast down Satan and that actively took form on Earth was Jesus Christ. I know this is super surprising. Again, another religious figure. And this is even more crazy. Jesus Christ's whole goal on Earth, historically speaking, was to get people to stop following crazy cult-like practices from the Law of Moses and to just get along and love your neighbor. The Emperor's whole goal is to unite humanity under one banner, as major technological progression only comes from large groups of people being united under one cultural goal. Now, I believe the main reason he faked his death, just like every other time, is because the followers started to fall a little bit too hard, meaning they started violence. It was totally against what he wanted to do. He noticed that it was regressing mankind, not progressing mankind. And that's a little bit odd. Each time that he started to be someone in the height of different civilizations, when he is basically the times when he thought that humans were able to come together, when he noticed that humans were progressing, that they were starting these big civilizations, it was going to be easier for him to unite everybody under one banner. So just a little bit of a recap. First of all, Alexander the Great in the Old White Dwarf series, he talked about being a god. He was strategic genius, randomly disappeared when he realized that the people were actually uniting. They were using his name as, basically to do bad stuff. The next is Saint George, significant for the sole fact that, he was performing kind of miracles at the time, and he never corrected the fact that he was called Saint. So he was seen as a religious figure. He was totally okay with that, and again disappeared after he was done with what he did. And then again referenced in... Oh, and that was referenced in the Mechanicum. And then in this prior one, referenced in Dark Gods. And this was talking about the Emperor of Mankind being Jesus Christ. And that was basically going to be, again, him trying to teach peace, unite everybody under one banner. When he noticed that people weren't uniting, he decided to abandon the whole thing, kind of fake his death, run away, that kind of thing, and then wait for a better time to reappear. So wrapping all this back up to the main point, the Emperor of Mankind always wanted to be worshipped and become a god, like always. He just got a little bit more smart about it. What the Emperor of Mankind learned from all of these experiences is that more people are told not to do something, the more devout the followers become. When the Christians were persecuted by the Romans, they doubled down on religion, even to the point where they were actively willing to die for it. And I think that's something that the Emperor saw. He said, oh my gosh, when the Romans said not to be Christian, they are becoming more and more Christian. The thing is the emperor needed followers that were willing to basically die for him. He didn't need just these little followers that said, oh yeah, I kind of believe, I kind of don't believe. He needed people that were actively willing to die for him. Those are the kind of followers that give you a nice psychic boost you need in the warp to actually get stronger. We need the Emperor gets stronger when people believe in him. Even in recent Warhammer 40k books, such as the Plague Wars, we see that when people believe so hard that they are not afraid to die in the Emperor's name, the Emperor gets a large power buff, even enough to where people fighting greater demons of Nurgle, just as normal humans from across the galaxy, get a boost enough to where they are actually killing greater demons of Nurgle themselves with the Emperor's blessing, kind of thing. Now, how the heck do you get these kind of followers? You know, by saying that it's outlawed to follow these certain thoughts, right? By saying you cannot worship me, by denying your divinity, by actively persecuting those that believe in you. I know for a fact the Emperor wasn't a dumb guy. I'm sure that he's playing 4D chess in his head at all times. It is implied that he wanted the Primarchs to turn. He knew that the heresy was coming. Some even think that he wanted to be put onto the Golden Throne to give him a power boost. Maybe not as a corpse, but that's neither here nor there. By outlawing his worship, he made the few followers that he had way more aggressive in following him. And because of that faith, miracles happen through the Emperor's power, which convinces even more people. Next thing you know, trillions upon trillions of people are worshiping you like you wanted this whole time, but doing it in such a way that it is like extreme worship, not just willy-nilly, oh, I think that I believe in you. No, like willing to die for him. Everything's falling into plan. Now, just to make sure that we're clear, there are two more members in history that a lot of people assume are the Emperor of Mankind. So I just wanted to clear this up really quick before wrapping up the video, as I know that there may be comments in there. The first one is people that, you know, had characteristics of gods, people that were trying to unite people, all of that kind of stuff. One of those people would be Genghis Khan, and I know there's a lot of discussion online about the Emperor being Genghis Khan. This is untrue. Doombreed, the most favored and only demon prince that's held in higher esteem than Angron by Khorne himself, is said and proven to be Genghis Khan. So not Genghis Khan. And on top of that, if you think that 1/3 of all humans have Genghis Khan's DNA, we would probably see a lot more Custodes like looking mofos running around like, you know, Andre the Giant or the Mountain from Game of Thrones, that actor, which we don't see a lot of those people running around. So that one's off. And then the other one is, I'm gonna butcher this name, but it's Carlo Collodi. Carlo Collodi. He's the writer of Pinocchio. Now here's the quote that everyone from the Book of Master of Mankind always says. It says, "The Emperor was silent for some time. When he spoke, his eyes had returned to the hulking form on the surgical slab. There was once a writer," he said, "a penner of children's stories who told the tale of a wooden puppet that wished to be reborn as a human child. And this puppet, this automation of painted, carved wood that sought to be a thing of flesh and blood and bone, do you know what he called his maker? What would such a creature call the creator that had given him shape, form, and life?" End quote. He legit says that there was once a writer, not "I am a writer." So let's just debunk that right off the bat. So this is just so you know, I've done my research. Those are the two other big ones that people will always say, oh yeah, they're the Emperor. People always joke, yeah, the Emperor was the writer of Pinocchio. Isn't that crazy? Not true, just based on the quote. And he definitely wasn't Genghis Khan, as that's been a proven demon. So again, thank you so much for listening to me rant on and on about this theory that I've had for a long time, for getting through the video. Now, on top of that, I am going to be releasing the next Lionel Johnson video for real this time. I know in the past few videos, I've said at the end of them, hey, this is going to be the next one that I release. This one is going to be released, and it's going to be about the Horus Heresy and what Lionel Johnson did during the Horus Heresy. It was a little bit difficult, but I just got done writing the script, so you're going to be seeing that one come out within the next week or so. I am working towards 1,000 subs right now as my current goal. We're close to 300, so thank you again, all you great Crusaders, for subscribing. And again, if you could like and share this video, especially if this is something that you personally have thought of or that you've believed, I know that other people out there would absolutely love to hear this. And then on top of that, you'll be blessed by the Omnissiah. And again, thanks, and until next time, this is Warhammer Wiki. I'll talk to you later. Bye.